Welcome to the BEASTwriter Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Sakamoto, and today we're going to be discussing the moves that the Tennessee Titans made involving 2 first-round picks, and basically they wiped their hands clean of those players. So, if you follow my podcast, I break down every transaction in different parameters, right? So, when it comes to... Excuse me. Alright, so this is, I got a call from an NFL coach. Okay, so, this is from, what are I talking about? Breaking down the Tennessee Titans. This is going to be involving 2 first-round picks, like I said. Vic Beasley, who was drafted number 8 overall back in 2015, as well as seasoned veteran cornerback Johnathan Joseph, who was drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals. Alright, so let's get started. Going on topic, the parameters of making this deal. So I like to break it down, who the players involved, who I just mentioned, why the move was made, and the instant gratification first long-term gains. Alright, so let's get started. Alright, let's start with Vic Beasley. Vic Beasley, like I just said, 2015 first-round pick, drafted number 8 overall, was a workout warrior. I believe he put up like 35 reps on the bench press, something ridiculous like that. Had a nice 40 time, I think it was 4.53, somewhere in there. Had a really good cone drill, 3-cone drill. That's a good gauge of a player's get off, as Robert Saleh and all these defensive line and defensive coaches like to say, how good of his get off is, right? They talk about get off, his initial get off, right? And so he had a strong get off, and which checks all the boxes in terms of his speed, and we hear that too. And basically, his time in Atlanta ran out. He was a 2016 first-team All-Pro, racked up 15.5 sacks, led the NFL, and then after that, a steep decline, kind of like the .com stock market era. All right. He signed this. Falcons said, "We're not going to, keep you. We're going to let you walk." Goodbye, Vic Beasley. And the Tennessee Titans needed some kind of a infusion of a pass rush. So in order to bolster their pass rushing game, they went ahead and signed Vic Beasley in hopes that he would replicate that 2016 campaign, signing him to a 1-year prove-it deal worth $9.5 million. However, that was, I guess, a bad move, because what happened was Vic Beasley didn't even show up for camp. He didn't show up for training camp, so the Tennessee Titans fined him $500,000 for not showing up to camp, being a no-show, and that basically didn't start off on the right foot with the organization. John Robinson can't be happy about that. So, what, in terms of the Tennessee Titans, why did they release Vic Beasley? Well, there was a logjam at outside linebacker anyways. The team drafted Harold Landry, I believe it was in 2018, in the 2nd round. I think he was drafted number 41, if I remember correctly. As I was watching the draft, I was like, oh, Harold Landry's still on the board. He's a good pass rusher. And so the Tennessee Titans actually moved up, I believe, from 57 to 41 with the, now Las Vegas Raiders, to go ahead and nab their pass rusher of the future. And in return, they only gave up, I believe it was a 3rd-round pick. I have to go back on that. I'm not too sure, but if memory serves me correctly, I believe it was a 3rd-round pick and swapping the 2nd-rounders. So that's how highly they think of Harold Landry, and he's proven that he's a great pass rusher. He had 9 sacks last year. So he is a player that John Robinson really likes. GM for the Titans, John Robinson, when I talk about John Robinson. And they also signed outside linebacker Jadeveon Clowney this year to a 1-year prove-it deal. So when you have Harold Landry, who they traded up in the 2nd round in 2018, and then you sign the more coveted, highly invested prospect in Jadeveon Clowney on the other side to pair those 2 players, that doesn't leave much room for error or wiggle room for Vic Beasley to get on the field. Because Jadeveon Clowney, as we know, is the household name. He's the player that everyone wanted in free agency, but the Titans ultimately ended up getting him in the end, and it was worth a 1-year prove-it deal for $12 million. All right, so Jadeveon Clowney, is he an all-pro player like he was a few years ago? No, but is he serviceable? Yes. Can he return to that all-pro status? Maybe. Time will tell. He's not doing so well this year, but time will tell. All right, so there was a logjam at the outside linebacker position, which forced Vic Beasley out the door. Anytime you're a no-show for training camp, you want to impress your new team, that's not a way to do it. And you're not producing sacks on the field. You have 0 sacks and never started an NFL game for the team. So that just goes to show you where Vic Beasley stood with the Tennessee Titans. All right. Secondly, the Tennessee Titans pass rush has been non-existent, even with Jadeveon Clowney and Vic Beasley. They only racked up 7 sacks all year. 7 sacks. Aaron Donald has 9 sacks alone. So you can see where the troubles lie on the defense side of the football. It's rushing the passer. And they're not getting it done. All right, so they're like, okay, well, $9.5 million, bro. Like, you're not getting it done. We're just going to wipe our hands clean and move on. So, see ya. Out goes Vic Beasley. All right, now let's talk about cornerback Johnathan Joseph. Johnathan Joseph with his 2006 first-round pick by the Cincinnati Bengals, number 24 overall, I believe. I hope I'm getting this right. But yeah, I believe he was 24th overall. He played for the Cincinnati Bengals, I believe the Houston Texans, and then now this year the Tennessee Titans. He's a seasoned veteran, was a, I believe, second-team All-Pro at one point. I think that was back in 2011. I'm not sure. Again, go back and check. Actually, let me just check right now. Let me just look it up. Wikipedia will tell you everything, for the most part. Okay. Yeah. Wow. 2011 second team All-Pro. See? I still got it. All right. Anyways, he was let go, and he had a horrible game week 8. I can go into details about that after watching the Titans game. Just wrapped up watching that game. But yeah, he didn't fare well, and that's why they released him. Also, you have to keep in mind that there was a logjam there as well. He was basically a plug-and-play player. The Titans traded for Desmond King from the Los Angeles Chargers, struck a deal for a 6th-round pick in return. So out with Johnathan Joseph, in comes Desmond King. And Desmond King, for those who don't know, was a first-team All-Pro back in 2018 from the nickel cornerback position. He also brings returnability. I believe he was a 2018 second-team All-Pro that same year as a punt returner. So you're getting a lot of versatility, a lot of different skill sets, a younger player with a young fountain of youth that the team can see for the foreseeable future. Now, why did the Los Angeles Chargers trade Desmond King after having those accolades on his resume? Well, the proof was in the pudding. He was playing in the last year of his contract. They probably weren't going to re-sign him anyways. And so instead of just letting him go at season's end, they wanted to get something in return. And they did with draft capital, a 6th-round pick. All right? So, another reason why Johnathan Joseph was released, I believe, was because the team also has a pair of cornerbacks that haven't seen the field much, right? You have Adoree Jackson, who has been dealing with a knee injury all year, hasn't played all year, and he was a first-round pick back in 2017. And then you have Christian Fulton, who they drafted from LSU in the 2nd round of this year's draft, who has been dealing with a knee injury and was sent to IR after the first few weeks of the season. So if you look at it from a management standpoint and GM John Robinson's standpoint, you can see why the moves were made. Vic Beasley not getting it done. Wipe your hands clean there. You have Harold Landry and Jadeveon Clowney anyways. And then as far as Johnathan Joseph, he had a poor outing. You trade for Desmond King, a better player, younger player, and adds versatility in the return game. So he fills in there. And then you also have Adoree Jackson and Christian Fulton for the foreseeable future. And at least one of those players should be back soon. All right, so that wraps it up on today's episode of the Titans pair of first-round picks that they released. I did have a question from somebody on Twitter. I like answering questions on my podcast. So someone asked me, let me go back into it. Someone asked me a question about Vic Beasley. Oh, here it is. Do you see the 49ers making a move for Vic Beasley? Well, my short answer is no. Why? Because I feel like Vic Beasley is more suited for a 3-4 outside linebacker scheme, just like the Tennessee Titans, how they planned on using him. I don't see him as a 4-3 defensive end. Now, as a situational pass rusher, it doesn't matter if you're playing in a 3-point stance or 2-point stance. It all depends on the technique that you're playing and what the coaches are asking you in playing your splits up front, down in the trenches. I do believe that pass rushing is a natural skill set that Vic Beasley has. Now, will he return to that double-digit sack artist he was back in 2016? Time will tell. I do believe he has the skills to do so, but he needs to be put in the right position to make those plays happen. So, in a nutshell, if the 49ers were to make a move, I don't see that happening anytime soon. The team just traded for Jordan Willis, and I think they like to see what they would like to see what they have in him first before delving into free agency and elsewhere. All right, so that'll be it today. Thank you for tuning in to my podcast. I'll be sure to post more for you. If you like what I had to offer, please subscribe to my YouTube channel in the lower right-hand corner of your screen as I keep all things Beast. Thank you very much. Have a great day. BEASTwriter out.